The regular meeting on Tuesday, October the 4th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the invocation given by our City Councilwoman, Sarah. The seat will remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we thank you for the many blessings you provide for us. Please guide all of the people of our city, state, and county to be more compassionate, understanding, and welcoming of one another. Let us all work together as we become the best that we can be. It is in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Here.
Councilperson Lucido?
Here.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Here.
Councilperson Marion?
Here.
Mayor Pixley?
Here. With that, we'll move into the first hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard at this time? Does anyone wish to be heard? Mrs. Peak?
Shirley Peak, Eastpointe resident. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know I've been up here before about this, but here I go again. Especially on our street, I see not only residents, but grass companies. They cut, they leave it all over the city sidewalk. They leave it in the street. I'm out there. I see the code enforcer car go right by, look at it, and leave. And a week later, that brown, dead grass is still covering all the city sidewalk, part of the street. I mean, we've got to do something to keep the city cleaner. Our street alone, you could write a ton of violations if you really looked at everything. So I'd like to see something done more about that to keep the streets and the sidewalks cleaner, because it's going down the sewers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone else wish to be heard at this time? Sir, I saw you raise your hand. Please state your name.
Anthony Shirota. I live on Beck Street, northeast corner of Eastpointe. I have a city sewer, sanitary sewer in back of my garage that is leaking ground after the rain. Ground around the sewer is washing into the sewer, and the ground around the sewer has sunk, which has sunk my garage 10 inches, the corner, with a repair cost of $18,500 to fix this. I've complained to the city. I've come down here. I've filed a claim with the city for the repairs. They tell me the sewer is going to be fixed. The brick that lines the sewer entrance is deteriorated, so the ground and the soil seeps in to the sewer whenever it rains. I filed the claim 6 weeks ago, have not heard anything. I've been told do not do any repairs on the garage until the investigation's over, but in the meantime, my garage continues to sink, the rear corner, which has separated the wall. It's a block garage. The walls are separated on the side and the rear wall. I just need to know why is everybody dragging their feet on this? I've been shuffled from person to person. I get the same story. Yeah, well, it's going to be fixed in 2 weeks. We'll get your claim answered in 2 to 3 weeks. It's been 6 weeks and I haven't heard anything. So I need somebody to help me out here.
Sir, I'm sure the city manager can probably briefly address that tonight.
I sat down with him personally and filed the claim at that time. That was 6 weeks ago.
Well, there are some things he can't give you an immediate answer on, but he'll probably reference that in his report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Ma'am?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Beadle. I just wanted to address you guys very quickly about the possible change in the chicken ordinances. I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear what I had asked about the last time I was here and address this and potentially allow us to have chickens. I did want to just kind of explain a little bit why we kind of want to do this. Not only does it give us the ability to reach out to our community and kind of teach the kids in our area where our food comes from. And it also helps us with our gardening and with our urban farm because the chickens keep the pests away, the spiders and the ants and the fleas and the ticks and all of that. So it's a natural pesticide for us. And in addition to that, it allows us to have food more readily available. I know that food concerns aren't really a huge issue in this area because we have Myers and Aldi everywhere, but the average, for instance, the average age of an egg when it hits your dining room table is 45 days old, in comparison to us being able to go into our backyard and just simply harvest the eggs straight from our hens, which obviously we don't want any roosters. You can get the eggs without any roosters. We don't want any of that noisy stuff going on. So this is all part of our hope that we can make ourselves a little more sustainable, and in relation to that, make the community a little more sustainable. If we're able to teach the kids in our area where food comes from, how to grow food, if that means us going into the local schools and doing demonstrations there, we're more than happy to do that. This is just something that's very important to both my husband and myself, and we're really hoping that you guys will take it under serious consideration. And in addition to that, I hope that you guys don't see this as a big stretch from what we're already allowed to have, which is ducks. I mean, we're already allowed to have 2 ducks, so it's essentially a lateral move. There's no difference in how you need to keep them. There's no difference in how they need to be maintained. There's no concern for rat and mice infestations. We keep all of our food in the house anyways because the
You
squirrels
have 30
eat it all.
seconds.
Okay. So I'm hoping that you guys will take this under some serious consideration and grant us our request to allow us to keep these chickens in the backyard. It would be, we'd be very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? Sir?
All right, my name is Kevin Beadle. I'm an Eastpointe City resident and co-owner and operator of the Beadle Farms of Michigan. Good evening, council members and fellow residents of our city. I'd like to open tonight by saying thank you to our local police department. They have facilitated the return of our stolen lawnmower, so we're really happy about that. Good job, guys. Now to get into the discussion of possibly amending the city ordinance for banning chickens. I've heard arguments in the past that there's just been a lack of interest in it and not much community support. I don't necessarily believe that facilitates the need for a total ban on it. The history of backyard chickens and homegrown food is one that runs deep in just about every community across the country. In the 1940s, during World War II, every home was encouraged to have what was called a victory garden. And they were encouraged to raise and farm chickens for the purposes of eggs and meat and protein. With the coming of age of supermarkets and refrigeration, these things have pretty much waned off and gone by the wayside. But with the recent decline of the city of Detroit and some of the things we've seen in our own city, there's been a resurgence in urban agriculture and the desire to do these things. You can look up many YouTube videos, look up the Michigan Urban Farming Initiative, which provides grant money and seed and everything else. There's also the Urban Agriculture Act going through the state right now. For 2016, which would bring a massive influx of grants and loan money to individual farmers and people that are trying to establish these kinds of businesses. Concerns surrounding chickens I've heard include pests such as rats, mice, rodents, and all that. To address that, there's really not, the rats don't go after the chickens, it's the feed. So as with dog food and cat food and anything of the sort, you would just keep it in either inside or in a hard sealed container that mice and rats can't chew through. As well as, picking up the containers at the end of the day before you leave and go into bed. All right, some other things I've heard as far as like sanitation with chickens go, a small flock of, anywhere between 4 to 8 hens in your average backyard will have ample room. The recommendations for room for chickens, and the industry standard is 2 to 3 square feet. As far as free-range chickens go, they like to see like 8 to 10 square feet. So your average lot size in backyard in a home in Eastpointe would more than be adequate for backyard chickens of a flock of about 4 to 8. That would also provide all the family's eggs needs and potentially meat should, you stop laying, et cetera.
And you have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. So that would take care of that problem. Veterinary concerns are minimal. They're birds. They don't contract many diseases, and those they do are non-transferable to people in the small settings that you would see in backyards. So thank you guys for your time. Again, thanks to the police department. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Mr. Beadle. Does anyone else wish to be heard at this time? Anyone else? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the special meeting September 6, 2016.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the special meeting minutes of September 6, 2016.
Support.
Move with support. Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
And Mayor Pixley.
Yes. We have approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of September the 20th, 2016.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 20th, 2016.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. We have no scheduled hearings, no unfinished business. The first item under reports from administration is the city manager's report. And under that, he has 5 items he'd like to discuss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I respond to the very nice couple that I met with a while ago regarding their garage and that issue. We have, and I urged them that day to file with our risk manager claim regarding this. As everything, it takes a little longer if they ask questions. A couple of things that concerned me was whether the repairs to the sewer would be adequate. Was the building going to be, was it going to be a question of it's in the easement? What did the old easement say? Cost of repairs versus replacement. I thought that the number was really high regarding shoring up an existing garage versus the cost of replacing it. And to some degree, got some information about that back. And I have not heard anything further from the risk managers about any other investigation or report that they wish us to do. So I would be happy to convey that to you as soon as we have a course of action that they will approve, and we'll work through with them. But there's been a number of things that have been going on during the period of time, and I know you're anxious and certainly see storms as more than just water on the roof and more of a threat to the garage. But there are a few things that, like any claim, we have to work through to get to a result, and we are doing that. So I'll try to get something out in the next couple of days, kind of a status report to you on that. So thank you very much. Regarding storm events, just in the last few days we've had other storms, and I only point out storm events today because I have nothing particularly to report. I think it again emphasizes the fact that the system it again performed as designed, performed at capacity. We had actually in total accumulation of rain greater than the last event where we had issues. However, the amount of rainfall in the period of time, which creates the volume capacity issues, was not there. So again, there were some streets that flooded, which streets are supposed to flood, and those claims, well, that we realized before, we did not realize this time. Additionally, there's been a change in some employment at the Chappaqua pump station and system, and that did perform correctly, and they did make the transition correctly. So we didn't, to our knowledge, we didn't have any significant events where backups occurred. However, we are continuing on, obviously, with the smoke testing program, and that kind of relates to the storm events. We have put some information out, both on the website, it's been posted, and I think article has covered that. So if there's any other avenues of expressing information to people about that process, please give me those suggestions. Item number 2.
Before we move on, can I ask one?
Sure.
Since we have so many, might as well do the questions as we go. For the storm events and the smoke testing, or just in general, whoever put in flood claims with us, does it mention if it's like more rainwater flooding or like sewage? Like, I know some folks said it was like just water, clear water, and very rarely it was actual sewage. smoke testing going to apply to both of those, or I think
Well,
this is
smoke-
something I don't
Well,
really
smoke testing will
understand.
go, in fact, there's a handy little diagram that's on the information is a pretty good thing. The smoke testing goes from the public, where there's combined system, it will go back through the sanitary and go through any of the previous connections, both floor drains, any kind of utility hookups, standpipes, or roof or gutter will do that. There is no, unless somebody has a hookup to separately to a storm sewer would not be tested separately in most cases unless there's a suspicion of a problem, because the storm shouldn't have any house connection in that capacity, it'd be just the combined sewers.
Okay, that's what I thought. So if someone does think it's just rainwater, it just happens to just not be any sewage, but it should be the same thing, really, right? You just got
Yeah,
lucky or something?
Yeah, if they go down, and they find just what appears to be mostly clear water, there can be actually a number of contributing factors at the house itself, but not involve the sanitary system. So, I mean, that will help to some degree. The smoke, if it shows no connection, no new connections, homeowner-driven connections, or some illegal cross-connection take place, then it is probably seepage or groundwater problems instead of anything to do with the backup in the system.
Okay.
Okay. The second item, Great Lakes Water Authority marketing, interesting pass, we go down sometimes. I think I passed out information regarding the Great Lakes Water Authority, again, is the metro area supplier, water and sewerage, replacing the old Detroit water and sewer system, now run by an independent board. Obviously, you've got my response that I've received from our board representative, Mr. Baker, who contacted the director, Ms. McCormick, regarding marketing and public relations outreach. We are hopeful that that information is more directly applied to contacting, as it was advised, new customers instead of obtaining passes to the hydroplane races or use of the water park area for some other marketing purposes. But I thank Mr. Marion for simply taking a few snapshots. It obviously got more complex than I anticipated a quick answer being. And now we found they used about 1.3%, was it, Mr. Blum, of our funding to go to marketing purposes in that particular instance. If there's any other questions, anybody wants me to do any further pursuit of that, I'll be glad to do so.
I think that's something we need to still keep an eye on. My observation from being down there helping, volunteering, setting up for the hydroplane races, they had a crew working on those bleachers for about 4 weeks, 4 to 6 guys, and they put enough lumber on that to build a house. And you bought that for $8,900, they must have an uncle in the lumber business to be able to do that.
4 to 6 guys for how many weeks?
4.
4 weeks. Well, Mr. Marion, I want to tell you, because of the complaints to the GLWA, I got a call and asked me to be on a committee related to advisory committee. So I have to be at a meeting on Thursday. And if you'd like to come along, I'd be more than happy, or if you want to go in my place.
I'll drive.
That would be good.
Okay.
It's an outreach committee and it's an advisory committee, so I think they heard us loud and clear.
It'll be interesting to see, and I'm sure you'll be able to explain for everyone, how the replacement of bleacher seating at the hydroplane races will advance the control of water and sewer rates in the greater metro area.
I also have your figure, Mr. Blum, because you said if it was 1% of their total marketing, what the marketing value should be. That's really an outstanding amount.
It's a very large budgeted number for public affairs, whatever that means. So,
We'll find out.
yeah.
Number 3, just an update, the current organization, Metro Matters, I've kept you up to date a little bit, been asked to participate with our appointed council to close out the business of Metro Matters, which was formerly the Michigan Suburbs Alliance. Some discussion about a replacement organization once we clean up the and finalize the work of Metro Matters that's been left to us. There is discussion about returning, I guess, a back to the future kind of organization that would go back to the root of what the Suburbs Alliance was originally created to do. Energy grants and those environmental opportunities, including the rate case, which I must say we participated in and joined in, and there has been, and we voted yesterday on a proposed settlement where we've got nearly everything we wanted in the rate case. And DTE and the Coalition for Regional Energy, as remember, this was a control of street lighting costs, which continue to go up, but we were able to slow because the rate, especially for LEDs, because as I mentioned before, and the reason we got into the coalition was once DTE saw the advantages of LED street lighting and the reduced costs, then they increased the rates for LED street lighting to be comparable to the old lights that we were replacing. And that was the reason we challenged them in the MPSC. And again, I'm happy to say there was some equitable relief given to the participants in the coalition, and uniformly we agreed to the settlement. Again, with the utilities such as DTE, there's different DTEs, and we have good working relationships, and they do continue to, in 30 days, we'll be finished with our LED install program and see these results. And there will be future increases, there's no doubt. That we did not, and we cannot settle for no future increases. But we do hope to continue to prosecute the issues of street lighting being at a different rate and a different commodity for DTE to sell than other lighting and costs to their communities. I had sent you a note that we would like to schedule a special meeting for November 22nd. This year you'll be receiving a comprehensive annual financial report and the audit report review. Little of an upgrade in financial reporting by the city, and the auditors will be able to deliver their report on that. If that's a workable date, if people need to check that, I know it's a little bit out, but we would like to. We've established that general schedule. It's very close to exactly what we did last year. So we anticipated that would probably work the same as it did before. So that's right. Okay, very good. I would like to have you consider some dates for a capital improvement forecast meeting. I think that the work plan of the city's advanced to a point that in following our fiscal priorities, I would like to have a work session with council to review capital needs, infrastructure, buildings, improvements, and to do that in a separate meeting. If we had a council meeting with a light agenda, I suppose we could address it, but if maybe in the next 2 months, we could take a look at maybe a Tuesday in between the other meetings, or whatever you'd prefer. I don't know if people prefer back-to-back nights in 1 week or would put one in between the other meetings. I think this would be time, and I think staff is, we have several important meetings in the next couple of weeks on infrastructure, including the reservoir issue that we're reviewing, and a building replacement program that we previously mentioned, and then, of course, the ongoing water and sewer systems that need some further attention and a review of our 5-year plan. So
Council,
whatever
do you want to set the
desire.
date now? Do you want to look at perhaps would you be ready the last week of October, the last Tuesday of October? You want to do it the second Tuesday of November?
Second Tuesday of
No, that'd be election
November
day.
is Election day.
Okay. I think we could do the end of October. I think we could be ready to do that.
You have your calendar out, what date?
I mean, I can work with any date, but
Be the
it
25th.
just sounds like you might want a little more time than that.
I just, yeah, maybe just a little,
You want to do the
And if-
Thursday of election week?
So what about the 29th? of
yeah, I
November?
know that would be a problem for people.
29th of
I mean-
November?
I think it's,
We could do it into December if you wanted to.
that's late for you.
Do you want to wait to set a date on that then? Maybe next meeting we'll just pick a date, or
Sure.
or we can do it now. I just don't know if you want to get an idea of how much time you need.
I think November sounds like it's a bit challenging and cluttered, so I think it comes down to either end of October or December. Would you rather check your calendars on a December date? Because I know that becomes a month that's got some other issues.
13?
13th?
Could do the 13th.
I can do the 13th.
13th of
December.
December?
Yeah.
It's fine with me.
Okay, we'll try for that. Thank you very much.
What time?
6:30.
6:30 work?
Sure.
That's good for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? Any questions?
That is all I have to present, Madam Mayor.
Anyone? All right, let's move on to our finance director, Mr. Blum.
Madam Mayor and Council. As we previously discussed with the November 22nd meeting, we have an audit going on. They arrived Monday. They will be here for a couple weeks. We're already moving through at a fairly brisk pace. And as in previous years, it's going very smoothly. But yeah, they've been here for 2 days now, and I'm actually a little bit surprised how far they've moved. So that's good, though. The other thing I want to point out is later in the meeting, you'll be approving payroll and bills, and sometimes the numbers look large. I like to point this out during tax season, but of the $10,360,000, $8,927,000 is distributions to other taxing authorities. We're not spending all that money. $1.4 million of it is Eastpointe. So I just wanted to make that point before we got there. And that's all I have, so.
Any questions for Mr.?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. I guess first of all, did anyone else call? We gave extra time on the water bills. Did anyone call about that, or that seemed to go smooth given that?
Yeah, it went very smooth. As we expected, let me speak here. We received a large amount of mail that Monday. We always get a large batch on Mondays. For some reason, the post office gets caught up on the weekends. We got all of that processed, made sure there was no penalties on that. We really didn't have a whole lot of people showing up at the window. It's kind of like if they were going to pay at the window, they showed up by the due date. But we did give that extra time frame on the mail, and that's going to help a lot of people. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had 2 check register items.
Okay.
First one, 189, one that ends in 189. Able Electronics, was this for the live streaming, and is this equipment to help with live streaming?
I cannot answer the VGA to HDMI piece of it. I do know the microphones on the camera system, though, were the ones out here in the hallway. We had some older bad microphones, and the audio was terrible. So we actually lowered the cameras, lowered the microphones, and got better microphones so we could actually hear the conversations that were being recorded. But I don't have an answer for the first item. Is it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the other part of the conversion
All right.
from our system, too.
Okay, for live stream?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then 278, what was, I don't know if I just can't recall, but it's Partners in Architecture. One of the items was Military Museum Expansion Study. What did that mean?
I will defer to Mr. Duchesne on that one. I mean, I know what it is, but
We have a proposal for the military museum folks to make a presentation to you at the, right now, the next council meeting regarding, they wish to fund and do an expansion project. And we wanted architects to lay that out in a manner that would be eventually suitable for both the city council and the proponents to review. And so that's where we've stepped ahead and done what is feasibility on that and some layouts to that. And in fact, we're meeting this week with them, and then we will have a presentation for you at the next council meeting to go over what they are interested in doing, capable of doing.
Sounds good. That was all.
All right, anyone else?
No?
All right, let's move on to our city attorney, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The council is in receipt of our October status report. There are two items in there that I'd like to discuss. The first being item number 1, the ordinance to allow backyard chickens. I did include a brief history regarding this issue. It was brought up during the June 2015 Planning Commission meeting, and the commissioners requested that I contact area communities to find out what their experiences had been with backyard chicken ordinances. I ended up researching 20 different communities, and of the 20 that I looked at, I spoke with the city attorneys of the cities that do allow backyard chickens, those being Ferndale, Livonia, Madison Heights, Northville, Roseville, and Royal Oak. And in speaking with the city attorneys of those communities that do allow backyard chickens, they did not have any problems or issues or complaints from residents. So that memo was included with that ordinance issue. And then number 2 is the amendments to Michigan's medical marijuana statutes. Last month, the governor finally signed into law several amendments to the Medical Marijuana Act, which was previously voted in by the voters several years ago. The new amendments take effect in December of this year. One of the amendments now allows provisioning centers or dispensaries. However, those facilities are not permitted to operate within a municipality unless the municipality enacts an ordinance allowing such facilities, and then the municipality has the ability to limit the number of facilities and also place reasonable restrictions on those. It's an issue that the council will probably want to take up at some point, given the interest of people that have called both City Hall and our office regarding the dispensaries. And over the course of the last couple of years, we routinely get calls from people wanting to start up such businesses. So I think that in creating such an ordinance, certainly the council will want to get the input from the police department, from city administration, regarding all of the different components related to allowing such facilities to operate. Madam Mayor, that is all I had. I'm happy to answer any other questions regarding any of the other items that are in our monthly report.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to new business, and the first item is a bid award for snow and ice removal.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to award the bid for snow and ice removal for divisions 1 through 3 to Ed's 2 Men and a Mower Lawn Service at Eastpointe, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this bid award.
Support.
Have moved and support.
I like that they're from Eastpointe.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Our second item is Gratiot Avenue tree planting. Mr. Marucci, who's been working on this, is here if we have questions. Otherwise, we'll take a motion.
The only question I had, which I don't think it'll affect it at all, is RTA.
It's all on the,
Should,
it's all on the side.
I know it's all on the outside, but I guess who knows what, what they need to do or what. I was just wondering,
What are we gonna do, stop living?
what'd you say?
We're gonna stop living until they decide the RTA.
No, but since it was only a month away, I didn't know if it mattered to just wait until then or just,
These are
Go
all on
ahead.
the side.
These aren't immediate.
no, I get that, but if we're,
To our knowledge, probably the first question is, does it appear within the plans that are forecasted plans to be affected? It's highly probably not. Should they go forward, they'll have to also advise the Department of Transportation of their intentions to rebuild the state highway because they are unaware of it. So they are proceeding as if nothing else is going on. So
But
It's
the
a grant.
plans change from day to day.
Yeah, it's a grant, so.
And then I guess I did have one other question that's similar about planting trees on Almond. Did we have plans to do that? I was discussing with Councilman Marion about what we had agreed on.
We had
for that.
intended this summer to do some plantings there, and Public Works did some survey work and did not find any participants in helping find public sites near their properties for trees. So, in other words, we asked the people, we're thinking of replacing right-of-way trees. Would you like one near your home, or would you not like one near your home? And we found nobody that supported new trees being installed there.
What about the gentleman that contacted us repeatedly? Didn't
Not
respond even
particularly-
either?
yeah, not particularly interested, apparently, along with the people along the street. Apparently, the openness, because I was prepared, as said before, to install, at a reasonable, following ordinance, reasonable distance, add new trees into the right-of-way. And the street, the residents at the time of their polling this spring indicated that they kind of liked the new, fresh look to the place, so. At this time, we put it back on a further schedule of forestry later on, so. We'll figure.
Okay.
We have trees we can plant, but we like to go where it's most welcome.
Well, a motion then to award the bid for the Gratiot Avenue tree planting to Greg Davis Landscaping out of Grosse Pointe Woods for the prices stated in its bid of September 20, 2016, in an amount not to exceed $10,000, and authorize the city manager to execute all documents necessary related to this bid award.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Item C is to schedule the public hearing on street lighting special assessment. We have a motion. We need to set a date.
It is.
Yeah, October 18th.
Is that date? Okay,
That's our
whatever.
recommended.
That's fine, but did anyone else want a different? Oh, okay.
I did have a question or comment about it. I guess first, the document that we were given, was that going to be then, I think needs to be made public, the
If you,
proposed amount?
yeah, if you set the hearing firmly tonight, then we'll have handouts and other information available.
Then my second item, I guess, was personally, I think the proposed amount should be a bit lower. But I don't know if we'd want to discuss this now or that same day.
It would be most appropriate at or following the hearing to do so. So once you set the date, then everybody has the opportunity to weigh in on it and see that. If you'd like to discuss it any other time administratively in between, we're happy to do so.
Okay, yeah, so then let's just post this on the website, Facebook and that, so everyone can get it before the public hearing.
We need to set the date for the public hearing. then.
All right, then, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to schedule a public hearing on the street lighting special assessment for Tuesday, October 18th, 2016, at 7 p.m. pursuant to Chapter 16, Section 4 of the Eastpointe City Charter, and direct the city clerk to publish all required notices of the public hearing.
Do we have support?
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Our next item is the discussion of Chapter 8, Section 4 of the city charter, which relates to farm animals.
Madam Mayor, if I could just point out, it's not the city charter, Section 8 of the city charter, it's a code of ordinances.
Okay, well, I'll start then if, I think after hearing everything from our residents, Kevin and Alicia, and after what I've read here, and especially I think the the one key thing to me is that ducks are allowed, and they're very similar to keep, according to them and what I've read. I think I would be for giving this to the planning commission to look at an ordinance to allow them in the city. So many cities do it, no complaints. I actually found out I have a friend that does have chickens in Ferndale. I did not know that until yesterday, or it might have been today even, and that's about all.
I did a little research and following up on the information that the city attorney gave us. Only one city in Macomb County allows them, and that's Roseville. And checked with the city of Roseville, they have no chickens in the city of Roseville, no permits. They also have a very in-depth city ordinance requiring, number one, is written consent of all adjacent property in order to allow that. If you get one person says no, it's done, deal's done, it's over. They have a very, and it's controlled by the animal control officer, and I had a discussion with him about it, and he was the one that informed me that they have no active requests right now, or that he can recall recent requests for them in the city of Roseville. But the requirement also, if somebody did, is the limit was 4. That was where they came up with that number, I don't know.
In Ferndale, Curdy, wasn't the limit 2? In the information that you sent earlier?
I don't recall the number.
Yeah, I believe Ferndale had a limit of 2.
Okay.
And then the other thing I was really surprised is they're really restricted on what you can do with these chickens once they're not laying chickens anymore. They're not allowed to slaughter them, number one. So you have to dispose of them somehow, and I'm not sure what you do with an old, I know what they do in a commercial entity, but I'm not sure how that's handled in a residential application. So it brings up a lot of concerns on how you would even operate this whole system. And the other restriction I noticed on a couple of them is they also, on some of the out areas, is they require that you have to have at least half an acre of property to even do it, which also puts a restriction. I just think for something like that to try and work in a residential area, I think would be pretty difficult.
Ms. Lucido, did you have any comments?
No, I'm on the fence on the whole idea. I can see the pros and the cons, with it. I feel like overall, my biggest concern would be not just enforcing it, but the cost of the city that it's gonna cost the city to go out and check these people's buildings and dwellings for these animals to make sure that they're all to code. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really undecided.
We would charge for a permit, wouldn't we? Like if you'd need to get a permit or something to cover the cost of going out and checking
You
it.
could set it up certainly that way, but make it specific. Otherwise, I mean, I don't think we issue duck permits, but that, I think you could do it because it is a little bit different than some of the other animals you're allowed.
Yeah, I guess that's my biggest issue. I just don't know enough about, how they should be housed or anything like that to actually make a very accurate, I mean, what we read that I was forwarded from everyone else this week, but I agree, like, the neighbors should probably be asked, and if that's gonna be the case, I don't think we would ever probably end up passing out any permits either.
Rich pointed out was the Code of Ordinances. I think it's also Section 6 that we would be amending. Do we run into issues with a restriction that says you need permissions from your adjacent neighbors, or is that something that's, because if there's a dispute between neighbors, that's why I would be worried if there could be a cost coming in or something like that on that. Is that something that?
You could have some type of appeal procedure if a neighboring or neighbor did not grant permission, you could establish some type of appeal procedure where that applicant could appeal the denial of that, because you could have a neighbor who, for reasons not related to the simple fact that they don't want chickens, they just don't like that neighbor, or they're doing it out of spite. So you could establish it and build in some type of appeal procedure.
Then also, what would be the transfer of ownership if the neighbor were to change? How would that go along with the new neighbors that were purchased a home, and if the existing neighbor already had chickens and they didn't want them?
Well, that could be something that you'd probably want to make it exclusive to that particular property owner and not allow it to run with the land.
Okay.
Could we limit the time duration on permission? Like it needs to be renewed every 3 years or something like that? Or
I believe so.
so if there are issues with the way they're kept,
Yeah, because this isn't a vested property right where you're building something that's actually attached to a structure. It's the raising of animals. So it's certainly something that if it's abused, it could be revoked.
I think if I recall the Ferndale one, it was once a year, actually.
okay.
I think.
Roseville, you have to renew it every 3 years.
I'm not opposed to having the planning commission kick this around. I'm kind of, because I do have some reluctance towards it, I probably would want a strict ordinance here, especially because we don't have a ton of space between neighbors.
I have
But I'm-
a concern, because on a 40-foot lot, if you put a coop up in the middle of it, you have 10 feet on both sides, actually. So there's a little bit of a concern there. I don't think, when this was under consideration before, I can't believe how many neighbors called and said, this is absolutely, will not do it. So I would really like to have something so that residents are aware that we might even be contemplating it and listen to what they have to say. Because the majority of the residents that called before, just because we allowed those 2 ducks, was unbelievable numbers. I mean, you have very small lots in this city, so it's a concern. And the other concern is, what do you do with them after they're done laying, which is approximately 2 years? So are you just gonna keep the chicken as a pet chicken? Because the Ferndale ordinance says you can't slaughter them for any reason. So what are you gonna do with all of them? And then the other thing is just the cleanliness of the neighborhoods. We have enough problems with dogs and cats trying to keep up with feces control and vermin and everything, and I think we've got that under control right now. I'm a little bit concerned about introducing another animal.
I do feel like limited ducks would probably not make as much of a mess as, let's say, even a dog. Like a regular, domesticated
And
dog probably makes a lot more.
I can tell you, the only reason why we left ducks in here was because Michael's mother had a friend that had 2 ducks, and she didn't want to tell her that she would have to get rid of it. But you can always go back and say if you already have one, you don't. But
Was it duck grandfathering?
and if anybody wants to really fondle an animal that resembles a chicken or a duck or any of those things, this week at the Harvest Fest, we're going to have chickens. And I would invite anybody that would like to do this to come over and help us at 3 o'clock, clean up the area, because I will tell you, that is my unfavorite thing to do, is to clean up after all the poultry that have been there. So please come over and at 3 o'clock over at Eastbrook Commons, and we'll give you something, a taste of what it's going to be like to maintain the animals. All right, so the vote of the council then is what?
Well, we don't,
Yeah, this
I mean, are we going to send this over to the
Consensus?
planning committee? And that's what I'm asking for. is
consensus
it-
for,
Well, I was going to suggest we either just vote now to send it to them, or if wanted to read a little more, set it up for next meeting, but I would recommend we don't push it further than next meeting if you want to do a little more research before then, or just vote now, yes
You
or
wanna
no.
Put it on the agenda for next meeting,
We
because
could
this
do-
was just a discussion.
I feel like we should just send it, and that way then should just vote on, and then we can get it on the table here and vote on it and be done with it, so.
This is what happened last time, is the planning commission spent a great deal of time discussing it. They were even discussing the zones and the coops and all this information. And then somebody said, well, you know, you don't even have an ordinance that allows chickens. And so it came back and no action was taken by the council previously.
Well, perhaps then if council wants to refer it to the planning commission, it could be with the direction for advice regarding a preparation of a draft ordinance that council could consider, because it is under the zoning ordinance, would have to be an amendment to it, and they do that all the time, is recommend changes to the zoning ordinance. So if council would like them to make a recommendation, I think that's the direction you want to give them, so you have something, because, you know, we can toss around concepts here, but perhaps they don't work until you see them down into a draft ordinance framework, and then from that framework, perhaps council will, of course, have the option to put on its changes or last touches to it.
I think I would be happy with that. I don't know if the rest of council.
be happy with that.
Okay. Because there would actually be two possible amendments. Number one, to the animal ordinance itself, and then to the zoning ordinance regarding where to allow the raising and maintenance of such chickens. The agenda's already set for this month's Planning Commission meeting. I will report to the commissioners on Thursday evening what happened at tonight's meeting, so it'll be on the agenda then for the Planning Commission for November's meeting for discussion.
So do we have to take a vote to do that?
Only if you wish. I think that the general consensus of council is we administratively and legal would both say management and legal would understand that this is to be put on the agenda for the Planning Commission. Mr. Albright will report to them the results of this discussion tonight, and they can put it down, and the chairman is present, so understands he can put it on the agenda for some discussion and definition of a legal framework to allow the raising of chickens in the city.
Okay, and we also have items E and F. Item E is the approval of a quitclaim deed for 21705 Gratiot.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the quitclaim deed, which would update the city's tax parcel description for 21705 Gratiot Avenue.
Support.
We just have a quick description of what that means.
Basically, during the process, Mr. Albright can jump in, but during process of sale, we found some conflicts with the property description and the publicly owned rights-of-way as described, and this just corrects that so they can proceed with the sale.
Essentially, it's a house cleaning measure.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. The next item is the appointments to the Planning Commission, and this is a mayor's appointment with council approval. So I would like to appoint Walt Jakubiak and John DeHunt to the Planning Commission with terms to expire December 31st, 2016 and December 31, 2020. So this would make the person on the Planning Commission for just 2 months? I think we're just filling a term then.
For one of them?
For one of them would be for 2 months?
Yeah, one would be two, and then have to be reappointed.
I apologize. Which, did you say first and second then?
You gotta pick somebody.
Yeah, first.
No, it's up to council to make the motion then.
Well, to support, but which one do you want to put in which slot?
I know we don't want to leave these empty for long, but is it something we could sit on for 2 weeks to see if we can get more applicants to?
We've already applied, we've already been asking for appointments, or applicants.
I know, I've asked around a little bit too, and I haven't been able to find anyone to take a bite, but.
And I think one thing, if I could ask, I'll have to be honest, I didn't know there was a second opening until today, until we received, we received this addendum very recently. Can we somehow make this more obvious, because folks might not know that there are openings and that kind of thing, because of course council can talk to anyone they know, anyone on the planning commission can talk to folks, but I didn't even know there was a second opening until today.
Well, the planning commission minutes are there, and there have only been 4 people attending, correct?
The one 2 months ago moved out of the city and was resigned.
Yeah, I
And
knew
then-
that one.
And then the last one, he just resigned. And it was-
Yeah,
But I think
I read
it's
those minutes.
kind of important that the planning commission have a full membership, because you want that full vote. And the second thing is, they're trying to work on the master plan and so forth, and they need fresh ideas or ideas from as many people as they can get, as many residents.
All right, well, I'll support filling the positions, and, and also be aware that there's going to be technically an opening, although, yeah, probably for reappointment, but,
So if more people want to apply, they have 2 months.
Make the
I just
December one.
think
Yeah,
that's
if
so that
this-
everybody's term doesn't expire on the
It is-
same
it's
year.
staggered
So
for
all of a
that.
sudden you just roll over the whole
But it's
commission.
filling unexpired, so probably should take like the oldest guy first, shorter term. So
What-
that he
that
doesn't
would
make it. Well, shelf life and all.
So is that the man
And
with
then-
the gray hair that's out there?
That'd be my recommendation.
All right. So we put Walt Jakubiec in the position that would expire December 31st, and John to expire December 31st, 2020.
can I just support that, or do I need to make a separate motion?
No, you could,
No,
well,
you have to make the
Or do I
motion. This is my
the mayor,
appointment.
yeah, we'll take that as mayor's action to appoint, subject to your council confirmation. So a motion would be in order to approve the mayor's recommendations to the planning commission, or appointments to.
Well, then I will motion to appoint Walter Jakubiec with the term to expire December 31st, 2016, and John DeHunt to expire December 31st, 2020, to the Planning Commission.
Support?
Move support. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Councilperson Marion,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico.
Yes.
All right, the next item is payroll and bills. Everybody's had their questions answered, and we got the information from Mr. Blum on that big amount.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $10,359,992.60.
Support?
Please call the roll.
Councilperson Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Councilperson Marion,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico.
Yes.
All right, with that, we'll move to the second hearing in the public. Does anyone wish to be heard at this time? Mrs. Peak?
One of the council members made a statement that if this chicken ordinance passed, it would be more difficult for the city people to inspect. Well, you can't get in the backyards unless a neighbor complains, whether it's dog feces, weeds, growing on the fence, up the garages. There's a lot of houses that are already like that, dog mess that doesn't get cleaned up, because you just can't get in the yards on your own. You have to have a neighbor complain about it. So it would be the same thing with the chickens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Peak. Mr. DeHunt?
John DeHunt, Eastpointe resident. I want to thank whoever finally got Paul's Party Store to get a facade. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I was sick of driving past a building that looked like a teenager's car with primer all over it. Now, if somebody can do something about the house on Stevens that has 6 different colors on it right on the corner, that'd be a wonderful thing. Which leads me to, I guess, my thought for the night. Aesthetics. We fixed the internal organization, I would think, for the most part. We're not going bankrupt. We have more police. We have more fire. We have not an ounce of beauty in the city except for a median and size that could potentially be threatened by the RTA, which is something completely different. I certainly don't support it for different reasons. I'm concerned about the grass that gets left on the street. I'm concerned about the lack of concern of our residents, renters, owners as they walk down the street and leave trash on the ground. I'm concerned about the little things, driving down Gratiot Avenue, seeing nothing but hair salons, beauty supply stores. There's no intrinsic value in our business district anymore. There's nothing that brings people here. I'm concerned about just the simple aesthetics of driving down and seeing a butcher shop, seeing something more. We don't seem to attract anything besides quick disposable businesses that fill a storefront. And forgive me, I'm not a fan of the chickens. I had chickens as a child many years ago. They're filthy animals, and they were not cooped up in a dinky little thing. They had a lot of range, and it was a mess. Aesthetics, for me, I think is very important. It's what the people see when they drive down Gratiot, Kelly Road, wherever, if they've never been through our city. What is the image that we're portraying with our businesses, with anything we have? So I guess my greatest concern, and I would challenge each and every one of you, is to consider the aesthetics of the city. We fixed the organization. How about we do something to bring people here for more than just getting hair pieces or getting their hair cut? By the amount of barbershops in the city, we should have a community of 100,000 people. So I would just ask you all to consider that when you have people coming up for business licenses and reviews. Are we adding something to the city, or are we just throwing more of the same in? And on a side note, Tony Principato, Fountain View Barbershop, 50 years, pretty fantastic having somebody in the city for 50 years. So great, kudos to him for the support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, Administration. Walter Kubiak, Eastpointe resident. I don't get any respect. Anyway, as I was growing up, my father's parents had a chicken coop. The only difference between here and in Detroit is there was an alley behind. But they had a chicken coop that was probably 11 by 4, and then there was an outside area that was fenced so that they could come outside and just run around. It wasn't that big. It was maybe 3 by the length of the building. But there was never a problem. You know, I remember going in there with my grandfather and feeding the chickens. And then on a holiday, we'd go in there and we'd find all the ducks and chickens cowering in the corner because they knew what was going to happen. But I don't recall them having any problems whatsoever. And what I would like to see is I would like to see you give these people an opportunity and use them as a test case. If it works out well, fine. If it doesn't, that's the end of it. But at least give it a shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schroeder, I believe that was your name?
I'd just like to address Mr. Ducharme's statement about replacing a garage for the price of the repair at $18,000. My garage is 22 by 24. It's all block construction. If he can get somebody to come out, tear mine down, and rebuild the same garage for $18,000, please give me his number. I would like to know that man's name. That's all I need to tell you.
Thank you, sir.
And please, they need to fix the sewer. The bricks need to be replaced that line the entrance to that sewer, or else the ground is just going to keep fading down and the garage is going to continue to sink. So until that's done, you can put up as many garages as you want. It's not going to help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, the second hearing of the public is closed. Move to mayor and council reports, and let's start with Mr. Kleinfeld.
I just want to remind everyone of the homecoming parade on Saturday. I'll have candy that I'll be throwing out, so bring out your kids and come watch. That's it.
Ms. Lucido.
The only thing I would like to report is to remind everyone that the Friends of the Library are having their fundraiser Thursday, October 18th at Donna's Family Restaurant on Kelly Road, and it's all day long from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that'll be it.
Thank you. Mr. Marion?
Just to reiterate, the homecoming parade is Saturday, and also stop in beforehand or after and check out the Harvest Fest. It's kind of a neat event. It usually draws a pretty big crowd, and I want to extend a quick note to my wife on a happy anniversary, 42 years.
Wow. Mr. DeMonico?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple quick things. First thing, I want everyone to know that the Eastpointe Memorial Library's millage that will be on the ballot is a renewal of 1 mil. So the title will not say that, but in the text it will say renewal. It is a renewal. Please vote. I'll personally be voting yes. It's not going to increase your taxes. We'll just keep the library going. And second, hope everyone watched the presidential debate. In about an hour will be the only vice presidential debate, so check that out. And just again, Saturday is, the Lions Club Harvest Fest. What are the hours on that, so everyone can know? 10
till
10 to 3.
10 to 3, right? 10 to 3, Eastbrook Commons, and then, of course, the homecoming parade starts at 11, game starts at 1. Come on out. That's all, Madam Mayor.
All right. Saturday, I did go to Tony's Barbershop, the Lakeview Barbershop, I believe it is, on Kelly Road, just north of 9 Mile Road. It was a great event. He was very excited, and it was really neat to see so many of his old customers walk in there and give him a hug. And, I think he kind of did a double take and looked at everybody's hair, and a lot of them didn't have as much hair as they had before. But Tony was really in rare form. He had a great time. I posted a lot of pictures of the event. He got a little plaque with and if you go in there, has a shaver that's engraved. It's silver, and it's engraved for all of his 50 years. He was a great guy, and if you get by that way, be sure and stop in. 50 years as a barber in the same location is a long time. He started telling me stories about all the hairs that he used to cut. He used to cut the fire chief, the police chief, and everybody else. Went on and on and on. He was fun. Homecoming, of course, is this week, and I hope we can all get over there. I know Sarah's going to be out of town, but I know I'm not walking, but I'm hoping to get over there depending on how many volunteers I get for the Harvest Festival. Harvest Festival starts at 10. We give 300 bags of candy to the first 300 kids. If you come at 1 o'clock, you're probably not going to get any because the kids are all lined up at 10 o'clock. We're going to do something special at the Harvest Fest this week. We have a kid's ID form, and it's a card, and it's so neat because you can put the picture of your child, you can fingerprint them, you can put your dental records in there and everything else, and you can put successive pictures. And these are free compliments of the Lions Club and of the networking forum, and they're very nice. So if you get a chance and you have kids or grandkids, come on over and get one of these identification things, because it's really good in case anything ever happens to your kids, and we don't want that to happen, but this is all the information that the police department would need. I have to tell you all that I did go to the SEMCOG meeting last week, and it was on the agenda for the RTA to add it to their transportation plan. And I think I was one of 3 people that voted against it, because I'm afraid that if the millage doesn't go through, they're going to be taking money out of our money that's allotted for transportation funding. So I have a lot of concern about that. At the same time, we were approving what they call the TIP plan, which is the Transportation Improvement Program, and these are new amendments that were added, and I was cheerleader for Tony Pry because he was able to get in one project into that TIP plan, and that project was to reconstruct Topher from Gratiot to Boulder. So hooray for Tony for getting that in, and hopefully they're not going to take the money out for the RTA, so we'll have to see, but big cheering. If any of you have a chance next week, SEMCOG's General Assembly is going to be over at the MSU Management Education Center in Troy, and the speaker that day is Tim Skubic. So that's always fun. If you want a good laugh, always go to see that. It'd be a great event. And I think that's all I have for now. Mr. Schroeder, I'm glad you came forward. We'll have to work on those things, but all things take just a little bit of time to work it out and look at have the insurance look at all the situations that were included in that. I'm glad that smoke testing is going well. That'll probably identify a lot of the problems that we might have. All right, that's it. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Clightfeld?
Yes.
Much.